I think most of us are chasing that fuck you money, right?
It's only rich people who are well off who ever say that money is not going to make you happy.
Yeah, because they want to indoctrinate the slave army forever and tell them.
You really think it's that nefarious, or do you think
if you make more than 36 lakh rupees a year, you are considered in the 1%. Mate, how big is 1%? I don't think all the Mercedes, BMWs, Rolls Royces, Lamborghinis running around the streets of Bombay, Delhi is small. So how is a person who's making 36 lakhs when you give them that little pat on the back yo man, you're in the top 1%. Everyone's yeah, 36 lakhs, I'm happy. Nobody understands what real wealth means.
Welcome everyone to another episode of The Overcorrection. Today we're in studio with Neel Gawde. He's a colleague of mine from the pre-COVID era.
If you look at Gen Z, they're very much about the money. I asked them a simple question. I was like, if I were to tell you that, yo dude, 0 increment this year, at the end of next year, I'll give you a guaranteed higher than 50% increment and I will teach you something that will be a skill that will bode you well for life. Most of them are no man, it's about the money. The softies of today would not survive when people would ask you questions like, are you a fucking what's wrong with you? What would you say, bro?
Andrew Tate is making a bid to be the PM. Bro, are you mad or what? That'll never happen. It's just a joke. I was like, bro, this is verbatim what people said about Trump. Any traditional type politician, they just look at us as a talking head now. Who would be our populist leader?
Imagine bhai. Imagine bhai, bro. It's PM. No. The left had too much time undisturbed where lunacy broke out. The fact that you can identify as a fucking printer. Before the age of 4, where you don't know how much fucking macaroni and cheese will make you sick, you are okay to make a decision on whether you want to unalterably change your body for the rest of your life.
Welcome everyone to another episode of The Overcorrection. Today we're in studio with Neel Gawde. Welcome.
Hello, hi.
He is a very old friend of mine. He's a colleague of mine from the pre-COVID era. And he's also a fellow South Bombay boy. Sobo. I wanted him here today because we are going to be discussing privilege. And South Bombay is one of the epicenters of privilege in our country, would you say?
The bastion. Quite literally.
I wanted to discuss what I like to think of as the privilege paradox. Right. So privilege is on face value itself, definitionally a place where you have a lot of advantages. Right, that can stem everywhere from the education you have, the healthcare you receive, the nutrition you have. This stuff can compound generationally. And, well, you're going to be a lot better off because of a lot of these things. But what I also see is a slight disadvantage that occurs, particularly when it comes to people's careers, perhaps, where privilege makes you complacent. Right, it makes, part of what you have definitionally is also, you don't have to struggle. Everything is pretty much there for you. You're financially secure, you have a good community around you. You don't have a drive and a need to sort of change your station in life. And in a lot of cases, there's this idea that that drive is what makes people do great things.
Sure. We discussed this. I used to feel like I would have been very vehemently with you on this earlier, but I feel like privilege, everyone looks at privilege in such a negative way, right? Everyone brings this very negative connotation to privilege in the sense that if somebody has privilege, they're typically going to be a spoiled brat. I would say, I think Leo said it best, right? In The Wolf of Wall Street, I've been a rich man and I've been a poor man. When I show up to my problems with a nice car, with a Rolex on my wrist, is better than being a poor guy. So why would anybody who works hard, anybody who wants to doesn't have privileges, aiming for privilege either for themselves or for the next generation, right? So this misconception, I think, that people who have privilege don't work hard or aren't driven or don't want to change their station. They might not want to change their station because they're at a pretty fucking good station, somebody has worked really hard to get them there. So why not, right? If that's the end goal, right? Everyone runs the rat race. I'm sure there are those exceptional individuals who run behind purpose and mission and they want to change the world. But mere mortals, I think most of us are chasing that fuck you money, right? Or that paycheck, that number that everybody has, or the concept of how much money they want to have or how much wealth they want to create for them to be able to pass on that same privilege. Because at the very onset, I think privilege and wealth are two sides of the same coin, right? Like today, I don't think privilege means anything else, because you can be privileged to have a great social standing, but if you can't afford to be with those friends or hang out in those social circles, what's the point, you know?
So if the point of drive on some level is to be able to afford privilege, do you think that it's sort of the cycle that happens, that now this generation is not supposed to change the world?
No, I mean that's a quite a cut and dry way of looking at it. But I feel like there is always that one generation, right, who is supposed to struggle. Like, let's just be real. Like, there's always going to be that one. I don't think there's any story that we know of where somebody has been born a king and their father and their father and their somewhere along the way there was that 1 foot soldier who decided to break rank and be like, yeah, I want the empire, right? So I think there are some generations. I mean, that's a very hectic statement to make, but I mean, yeah, there are some generations, right? Like, who are just meant to like be a footnote in the history of like a family.
So like going with this thing, like suppose there is this cyclic nature and there has to be this one generation that is a footnote in their family's history.
Yeah.
Do you think that people can have a fulfilling life without drive and ambition? Because that is the other reason to work. Like if you have as much money as you want, you know, fuck you money, as people call it, and say you're born with it, you know, why would you work?
You don't have to. I mean, you really don't. There are people, I know people who are just like, yeah, man, I'm going to spend the rest of my life enjoying myself. So,
do they enjoy themselves?
If you ask them, they probably say that they are. And it looks nice, I guess, because like it's an Instagram life. But how many bars, how many cafes, how many holidays, how many bags, how many shoes? Like, you know what I mean? Like, after a point of time, for me at least, and maybe this is just me talking, reward is only like an enriching experience if it comes after hard work. You know what I mean? Like if it's just one of those things where it's fallen into your lap, I don't know how much you value it. So I guess that is what I think would be the problem. I think that's what would push me to work, is that I don't think I could sit on my ass and just like spend. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I'd like to spend, but like I need to like balance that out. There has to be, to have what they say as a rounded life, I guess you need to feel the other parts of it, right? Because if you don't know hard work, how do you know like reward?
Yeah, I think this is a place where money and reward get equated because, as we've spoken about, it's the most tangible way to determine your worth in today's world.
Correct. Or valuing your time, right? Today, if I sit X amount of hours or I contribute X amount of hours to a particular project or to a job, I get paid a salary or I get a payout, which is, I guess, proportionate to the value I bring.
And that's very interesting you said your time, because I think this is where we can differentiate having money in the bank versus feeling that your time is valued.
Yeah.
So what your time is worth being high will give you more joy than just having that money sitting in the bank.
Of course. But because when your time is valuable, also your conversations that you have with people treat you with a little bit more, I would say, urgency. Respect is an obvious statement, but the urgency with which your time is respected, right? Today, let's take the example of someone super successful. Like if you have the opportunity to meet someone from the Ambani family or from the Birla family and they tell you to come at a time, you're going to be there 30 minutes earlier, right? Like, you know that. But let's say that the same thing is from, say, somebody in their company or somebody lower down the rungs. You're not going to treat it with the same amount of seriousness, right? So their time is valuable. It's not that they have the money in the bank. Yeah, everybody knows they have the money in the bank. That doesn't mean that someone has to value their time. But it's because they choose to continue to work. If you look at any of the super successful families, the top 5 richest families in India, none of them need to work, right? But all of them, their second, third generations are all working hard.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem like they're slowing down.
I think it's going to be one of those great rebuttals to this idea that the third generation is just going to destroy things. I think there's something to say about values that can stand the test of time.
Absolutely. But I think there is a certain generation at which
the footnote.
No, I'm not talking about footnote. I'm talking about even the super successful guys, right? Like if you look at it, I think the 7 generations is what the maximum it has been taken historically. Or I guess the Rothschild, but no one talks about them because like you can't, they'll kill you.
I mean, they're actually, the Rothschild are
they're a proof.
They're also like a public investment firm, you know.
That's one of their many businesses. Yeah, so nobody understands, like, I mean, this, I don't want to go into it, but like the story of the Rothschild family is very intense. They profited of World War One, of World War Two. They have been on both sides of every major conflict, I think, in whatever. I'll get killed, man. Sorry.
Neel Gawde does not represent the views of
No,
the
no,
Overcorrection
not at all.
podcast
Nobody.
or his employer or any
myself.
political party.
This is just a version talking on a camera. I don't mean to offend anybody. Actually,
but-
that's not true. So, I mean, yeah, man, like, but look at privilege, right? Look at any of the families. You take any successful family today, at least I'm talking about the Indian context, I feel like all the second and third generations of those families is working hard. I wouldn't say harder, but hard than, like, in comparison to the guy who set it up. And I don't think, like, that is also a lot of pressure, right? Because privilege, while it comes with its benefits of, yeah, you get that head start and yeah, you get this, but you're always judged by the person who put you in that privileged room, right?
Yes.
You are here because your father, your brother, your uncle, your friend, your wife, whoever it is has gotten you in this room. But that also means that you can't be stupid, you can't fuck it up. You also, it's also implied, right? Because today, whoever that person is who got you this privilege is, you've got to believe is going to get a call after if you are less than spectacular, being like, yo man, why are you making me just like nepotism? I think that's the difference between nepotism and like privilege, right?
Yeah.
Using it well versus like not.
So it also, there's a level of pressure on people who are privileged because all those families have known is success.
It's a lot of name to live up to, right? Like today, at the end of the day, it's more than what you think of it as. Like a non-privileged person, you try your best. If you fail, that's it, right? Your mom or your dad is going to come home and give you a hug and be like, "Beta, you tried your best." Here, if you fail, when you go home, the person you expect to comfort you is going to be like, "You fool! You cut my name also in public." So it's a hectic one, man. It comes both ways. Yeah, it cuts both ways. But it's better to have privilege, man. I mean, I don't think that's an argument that you can make. Because there are lots of these guys I see on the internet, ranting on about, I don't want privilege. I want to have it's a very socialist viewpoint, that, oh, you don't need so much. You don't want so much. I think everybody should be entitled to go after how much ever they want to.
And it's only rich people who are well off who ever say that money is not going to make you happy.
Yeah, because they want to indoctrinate the slave army forever and tell them.
You really think it's that nefarious? Or do you think that money has, for whatever reason, not bought them happiness?
No, I don't think that's... I mean, yeah, definitely. I don't think money equals happiness. No, that's not the case. But being happy is easier to do, I think, with money than without, for sure. Like, that goes without saying. And I think that, yeah, it is nefarious because I feel like today they are... I mean, you want to control the mass population, right?
Okay.
You want them to think that they can't make more than 1-2 lakh. The median income in India, if you make more than 36 lakh rupees a year, you are considered in the 1%. Mate, that is... How big is 1%? Because I don't think like all the Mercedes, BMWs, Rolls Royces, Lamborghinis running around the streets of Bombay, Delhi is like small. So how is a person who's making 36 lakhs when you give them that little pat on the back, like, yo man, you're in the top 1%. Everyone's like, yeah, 36 lakhs, I'm happy. Nobody understands what like real wealth means, right? Like you have to have that. Okay, that is, I mean, maybe this is a very individualistic thought point in terms of where I think or what I think is required to live a fulfilling, like, materially happy life. Subjective, right?
That's subjective, sure. But I think we can agree that, say, in a city like Mumbai, 36 lakhs a year is not getting you that cliched magazine 1% life that you hear about.
No, it's not. If you're living financially responsibly, you're not living really in Mumbai also. You're living on the outskirts of Mumbai.
So, speaking of powers that be wanting to control people, what do you think about this work 90 hours a week? I mean, that on some level is reflective of a CXO class of people who often have a lot of equity in companies and stand to gain huge proportionally to the company's success. Telling people who have fixed salaries and, I mean, ambition and all that aside, money-wise, asking people who have fixed salaries to work obscene hours.
So, I mean, when you started this, I thought it was going to be one more of our episodes that's going to get cancelled. But I'm glad you took it in this direction. So, I mean, this I think I can be very candid about without having to worry about offending people. I disagree with this premise completely. You know why? Because I think every CXO who has gotten there has done it at some point of time, right? Like specifically in the corporate world, if you're coming up the ladder yourself, where there is no privilege, where that's a conversation which will be parked on the side. If this is just pure meritocracy, or even being able to play the game, whether that means playing politics in the office, or it's getting your job done, or figuring it out in some alternate fashion, you still got to put in the hours. So I don't think it's a unfair representation for someone to say that. And yes, they are going to benefit disproportionately from it. But they were also once that person being told those things, and it wasn't being told to them that nicely. We're way more politically correct in the 21st century about how we talk to employees, right? Back in the day, man, what are you saying? I have heard. So, I mean, like, my dad has had his own business. His dad before him had a business. So, I mean, I have heard the way conversations used to be had. And I'm not just talking about between employer and employee. I'm talking about between buyer and seller, supplier. Mate, we would not, the softies of today would not survive when people would ask you questions like, are you a fucking Godwa or what? What's wrong with you? Like, what would you say, bro? There was nothing like Saturday, Sunday, holiday, bro. Yeah, they were lucky they didn't have cell phones which were glued to our ass. That's why we're so accessible. But sometimes they would be on holiday in like Matheran or whatever, and someone would call and say, go down, mein aag lag gaya. And they just have to get in the car and fucking come back. By the time they come back, aag jala diya, nahi jalaya, we sorted out 5 seconds after we called you. Didn't matter. They had to do it.
So maybe that's where the whole work-life balance discussion is coming, because, you know, Gen Z wants it.
Yeah, but I feel like also what we needed to do, like there was also that concept of internships, right? Like today, if you look at Gen Z, they're very much about the money. Like then none of them are like, oh man, I'm happy to work and learn. Like we actually polled this. I had a conversation at my workplace with a bunch of young individuals, and I asked them a simple question. I was like, would you be willing to sacrifice, and if I were to tell you that, yo dude, 0 increment this year, but I guarantee you if you take 0 increment this year, at the end of next year, I'll give you a guaranteed higher than 50% increment, and I will teach you something that will be a skill that will bode you well for life. Most of them are like, no man, it's about the money. So that long-term thinking.
Yeah. Also that whole internship culture, I think, had its day in the sun and then got trashed hard.
Free labor, man. We've all been exploited.
Yeah.
But it was good, right? Like when it was happening to me, even I felt like, what is this? Why are they treating me like I'm some slave? But they taught you some like life lessons also, right? Like that you have to understand that there are times when you're going to have to do mundane shit and with a smile repetitively until you can do something better.
Yeah.
Like I taught you to pay your dues in a way.
And if it made you think, like I used to always wonder, I was like, okay, I'm here at an internship, an unpaid internship. What are these people around me doing that they are getting paid?
Yeah. But it gives you a value, right? Like it gives you those skills that you need to pick up to see what people are getting paid.
Yeah.
But I guess maybe because I'm getting older, I'll ask you a question. Don't you think that everybody thinks they're smarter than their boss?
No, I don't
Really?
think that.
Like most case scenarios, I feel like people end up thinking if they're doing their own shit that they know better than like the person who's telling them. Even when you're an intern, you think you know what that person is doing. But there are so many elements that you learn as you grow, as you go in through the through the hoops, that it's not as easy as you thought it was. Like it's very idealistic when you come in.
I remember now when people just got out of, like in the creative field, right? Like everyone wants to be a showrunner.
Yeah.
You know, and you'll hear like a 21-year-old
Exactly.
film school grad saying, you know, what do you want to do? You know, like, are you a writer? Do you know, edit? Do you, like, what hard skills do you use? A camera? You know, I kind of want to be a showrunner. It's like, oh, what does a showrunner do? It's like, you know, like I just, you know, basically what they're saying is like, that's the first name I see when the titles roll. And that's the person who's the shit.
Yeah.
And I think I'm the shit. And I should be a showrunner, like have the whole idea and stuff. And then, you know, people will do the work.
But that's the thing, right? And nobody understands. I mean, I would have given such a more colorful opinion if I used to think that this was an isolated incident. But, you know, more and more I'm realizing this is fucking reality, bro. Like, I used to think that that's a very small percentage of the population. But more and more, it's the audacity. It's the only word that comes to mind. You know what I mean? Like, there are like I was recently told, fuck, like there's so many stories. Like, it's like my motherboard is overheating. There's this one fucking, I'm not gonna take names, but there's this one fucking person who I work with, who was like a first jobber. And this person, I'm not gonna say even the gender because like it's fresh, bro. But whatever. This person comes up to me and is like, "Yo, dude, I want to get paid more money." And I was like, "Dude, you're really young. You're like you're just out of college. Like you're lucky you have this job. Like I'm not trying to be a dick about it, but you have a like. I mean, for a first jobber, like the person's profile is really interesting. They get a lot of exposure, and I don't think by like regular for fresher salary standards that they're off. Like maybe they think that they're off by 2,000 or 3,000 rupees, but yeah, now everybody thinks they need to get paid 10% more, right? But this person's logic was that this other person who is technically my senior is not as good as I am. Says who? Says me. Says why? Because I think so. Do the numbers support it? No, I have not checked. I don't know. But I want to get paid as much as this person. Why? Because. Huh? What? No, man. So like, but like I had to deal with it very differently than I would have maybe 2 years ago. You know, like I was like, oh, is that what you think? Why do you think that?
Imagine your dad's generation talking to him.
Foof. Or her. We don't know.
Or her.
We don't know. And I'm not saying that they're them, but it's definitely one of the two. Like we're in Trump's world now, bro. There's just two genders. But
Trump and
hopefully Andrew Tate. The BRUV party.
The BRUV party. Dude, it's you know what's crazy is that like I said someone, I was like, dude, did you see this? Like First Post has reported on it. It's not some joke. Andrew Tate is making a bid to be the PM, and Elon Musk might come out in support. And he said, he was like, bro, are you mad or what? Like, are you like crazy? That'll never happen. It's just a joke. I was like, bro, this is verbatim what people said about Trump. I mean, like, it's not so far behind that you should forget that and just wonder, could it happen?
It could in another world, but I feel like just because of the fact that he has all those cases on him and like all of that shit's on about like, I mean, yeah, so does Trump, but let's be real. But Trump's came after. Like Trump was already president, then he lost and then they were trying to stop him. So like that was a little different.
Trump's vilification.
Similar like situations, but different.
That is different in the sense that actually before running for the presidency, Trump had a pretty happy-go-lucky image.
And he was also a bona fide billionaire. Like Andrew Tate is a internet billionaire. Nobody knows yet, right? Like, yeah, he might have a lot of fucking money, but where is this money coming from? Some people say it's porn. Some people say he's got some casinos in Romania. Some people say he's into some human trafficking. Who knows? I mean, he's cool. He's funny. He's a great orator. He speaks well. He's a good representation, I think, for the youth of Britain. They seem to need it, man.
You think that's the lowest hanging fruit they can go for? Like, do you think it's becoming a joke?
It's becoming a joke because I feel like there's like
its party is called BRUV. Like MAGA is one thing. It's BRUV. Like,
but BRUV is Britain
restoring underlying values.
Yeah.
One of his things he wants to do. I read his manifesto, so you don't have to. He wants to start something called BBC Punishment.
Yes, I watched this.
Public broadcast live channel 24/7 showing knife offenders in solitary confinement.
But the amount, it's a very radical thing, but it's reached a point where the UK is that lunacy like this is going to be warranted, right? Because I mean, I was in London recently, right?
Do you know someone personally who got mugged?
Yes.
Because I do.
Yes.
How does everyone know someone?
Because, okay, let me tell you a story of what happened to me. I'm not talking about a mugger. So it was me and 3 of my boys. All of us dressed like hoodlums. I mean, full black hoodies, full black jeans, hoodies on. It was cold. So I'm not a big guy, but I'm a tall guy in a hoodie. I look like I'm a jacked guy. And I was with other jacked guys. So I was like, dude, no one's going to try to fuck with us. What I realized is it's not as much mugging as it's pickpocketing. These dudes on these mopeds, I saw it. So you have to just be smart. Future tip to anybody who's traveling there, just keep your phone on the inside of the footpath. Like if the road is on this side, your phone should be on this side. If the road is on this side, your phone should be on this side, and grip it tightly. Like don't be out like touristy taking pictures, because it is that bad, bro. And it is in the nice areas as well. It happened to a friend of mine who was not paying attention. Like on the same trip, he was trying to get into his car. He had his phone out in his hand. He was trying to unlock it, a couple of things. This dude just came up to him, tried to grab his phone. Full black ski mask on. You don't know if these are black, white, Hispanic, Indian, Pakistani. Pakistani, they could be anybody. And they get on these electric mopeds and they bounce. So, like, yeah, man, if the UK is the place where everybody parks their money, shouldn't it be safer?
It should. And like, if you had to ask me, like, are my two choices literally to have Andrew Tate without crime, or no Andrew Tate and crime continues?
You choose Andrew Tate, right?
I choose Andrew Tate.
Most people would.
But I don't think he can maybe make a difference. But it's this whole thing about, this is what's happening. There's this whole anti-establishment populism movement going around. Like, people don't believe like any traditional type politician. They just look at it as a talking head now. So you need someone like an Andrew Tate where people think like, at least it's different.
Thank God that's not the case in our country, bro.
Thank God that's not the case. And I was trying to like run my head through who would be our populist leader. Like if it had
Andrew
to be like
Tate,
a character, like a cartoonish person, like is it going to be some actor?
Probably, right? And it's already worked in the South. It's a matter of time, right? Salman Khan. Imagine bhai. Imagine bhai, bro. As PM. Nahin. We love Modi ji. Then Yogi ji.
Chalo, before we have to cancel this podcast.
No, we won't. Nothing bad about politics. Indian politics. But that's what I'm trying to say, right? The Western world, lunacy. Like Donald Trump, don't get me wrong, I think he's a smart guy. Like, he's not stupid.
Do you think Andrew Tate's a smart guy?
Not for PM, bro. No.
You think Donald Trump's a smart guy for PM?
For the president of America?
Yeah.
He's proven to be one of America's best. He's realistically proven to be one of America's best. And I'm just going to talk about facts, right? One, like, now I'm not going to go into the economy and jobs because that's a debatable number. Both sides will throw stats at you. I believe he was good because conservatives have that like common sense, good conservative values where they don't like to spend too much. So I'm assuming he was good for their economy. He took on China. He was nation first. There were no fucking wars. He shut down a couple of like terrorist organizations. Brokered peace in the Middle East. Obama, Bush. Like, I'll name 8 presidents before him who had a war. All of them had a war. One war that started in their thing. He didn't.
I just have so much, like, people almost say that in America, and I guess with news about America, people live in, like, they don't read the same set of information also. So, like, there's a side of the news that will give you this information, and there's the side of the news that will give you
any information, like whatever you want to look for, right? You can search for anything
like,
you want and find a stat.
I can probably find a rebuttal to why Trump was like bad for each one of these things.
Sure.
Like they'll say on the wars front, they'll be like, oh, but do you know that actually he did engage in these type of conflicts?
Sure. But now public, right? Like now today, I think there's a common sense line, right? Which we have to draw that people are going to be barking shit all the time, right? But if the shit sticks, right? Like things that don't stick, like there are lunatic things that have been going around that like Kamala Harris was going to like had paid or gotten $1 billion for her campaign and now she's down 20 million. So if someone spends 1 billion and 20 million, I don't know what the fuck that actual way to say that is, but more than $1 billion, you would think that one person who supported her, who like really knew, could say one thing. What was her accomplishment? Nobody knows. Like they polled predominantly Democrats and like thousands of them. And they were like, bro, tell me one thing she did. And they were like, she was a great district attorney in California. They were like, what are you talking about? She put away people for marijuana and then she was asked if you smoked a joint and she laughed. And now it's legal in California. Like it's that simple to destroy an argument for the opposite side. And there are two political parties. Like today, to be honest, let's also talk about this way, right? Donald Trump broke the Republican Party also because they didn't want him. He was like, yo, you're going to take me now because I'm winning.
There's this on the parties front. There's also this idea that that people said like when Trump won this election, and maybe you can extrapolate whatever you want to Indian politics. We'll talk about it in the American context, but I think it can hold true. So they said when Trump won the election, it showed that the right-wing conservative, quote unquote, won the culture war. Okay, and certainly good points to argue in favor of that. I mean, things like Mark Zuckerberg coming on Joe Rogan, and talking about undoing censorship and speaking very unfavorably about the things that the Biden administration had made him do. Yeah. So this is like some clear signs. But a interesting point was made to me, which sort of stated that, yeah, they won the culture war today in some narrow sense, but rather they won this battle. In the larger scheme of the war, if you look at, say, what happened to the Republican Party, is that they adopted a lot of liberal values since the 1990s and the 2000s and the early 2010s.
Sure.
So you have a pretty progressive LGBTQ agenda.
Sure.
Okay. I'm saying, and you can draw that parallel in India as well, right?
Sure.
You have all these right-wing parties, but like in the
they have
US,
to be soft to the numbers.
in the US context, they have a diverse. They have black people, they have Hispanic people, they have women.
Yeah.
These are all anti-typically conservative ideas, thought processes. So it kind of shows that while there's this idea that, the right has won, the left had its time in a way, and a lot of the good things from there have been adopted and included.
Absolutely.
And I just wanted to say that I do see a lot of parallels with that in the Indian context as well.
I agree with you to some extent, but I'll tell you where I disagree, right? Is that the left had too much of its time. Even in India, let's draw a parallel to that, right? The left had too much time undisturbed where lunacy broke out. To some extent. I mean, whether you talk about the wokeism or the clusterfuck of gender that's going on in America, the genetic mutilation, the fact that you can identify as a fucking printer, NYU, one of the most reputed universities in the world, has 17 boxes for gender.
Yeah. So we didn't reach there in India.
Yeah, thank God.
And it's already, reversed.
Thank God. No, but you know what? Like, you will know this now when you go to schools. The conversations that are happening even in Indian woke schools, like the elite institutions are expecting you to be normal about gender fluidity, like as a concept. So that agenda where all of that shit, like, and again, to each their own, right? Like, do it in your own this thing. But when you make it mainstream conversation, today, that's what I think America overcorrected on. That's why America went right. Because I think that they were like, bro, these guys have lost their minds. The immigrant thing, like, okay, bro, allow anybody to come. And you read about the squatters laws in America? If a squatter at one point of time came into your house, you couldn't kick him out.
Yeah.
And it's such a weird country, right? At the same time, you can buy a gun at Costco. What the fuck, bro?
But
Someone's
do
going to
you,
break
do you
your
really
house.
think, coming back, do you really think that all these changes you're talking about, say in the Indian education system, affirming
Fluidity.
gender fluidity, that has happened during a time of a right-wing leadership in India?
It hasn't really happened during a right-wing leadership. These are international schools, right? These are international education systems. None of our Indian schools, which have an Indian education system, talk about any of this shit. Because realistically, the Indian mindset on this is that, bro, in a lot of our Indian scriptures also, there are stories of homosexuality. There are stories of like...
There's even the story of like men in women's bodies.
Exactly, gender fluidity. There are all of those stories. But the thing is that what we're saying is that, bro, don't do this when you're so young, right? You're too young before the age of 4, where you don't know how much fucking macaroni and cheese will make you sick. You are okay to make a decision on whether you want to unalterably change your body for the rest of your life. So that's what I'm trying to say, that the left also took its time in the sun a little too far, which is why they're where they're at.
That's actually where a lot of where we got the name of the show, The Overcorrection, from, because that is actually what we want to avoid, right?
Yeah.
Just to have more stability. Otherwise, we're always trying to make progress. Everyone wants a better life.
But you know what I feel like now also has happened is that we've reached a point of it's either this or that. There's no middle ground always. Like, you either have to go and do this and fuck it up this way, or you have to go that way and fuck it up that way. You can't just be like, okay, let's take like what you said, right? If there was truly a center that actually existed in the world in terms of politics, it would be such a perfect place to be. But that doesn't exist. Because even if you're a right-leaning center, sometimes you have to take a radical stand on something that you don't really care about because that's your party stand or that's your ideology stand, right? Like, I don't think it comes down to, I don't agree with... Yeah, you're never going to agree with somebody completely, right? But I think if you have 70%, it's your job to back them 100. Like, if you have 7 out of 10 things and you back him, you can't be... I think indecisiveness and this fickle-minded nature is the problem.
That's what people will say about Andrew Tate. I mean, like, at the end of the day, everyone would pretty much agree with a lot of the things he puts down in his thing, right? Reduce crime, increase... improve the NHS, do all these things on paper. They sound perfectly fine and good.
Who's his cabinet going to be?
Mandatory boxing in schools.
Who's his cabinet going to be? Tristan and Jason Waller.
Dude, watching SNL.
Like, no, bro. Andrew Tate cannot become...
Dude, it's the second... keep finding this. It's so ridiculous.
Don't get me wrong.
He's a reality TV star also.
I understand, and he's a kickboxing world champion. I get it. I'm not saying he can't, because I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm saying, come on, man. I thought like now we'd woken up and we'd gotten a little serious in life in terms of the world. If Andrew Tate, don't get me wrong, I'll laugh. I'll be very happy if he gets Prime Minister of the UK, because fuck them for fucking with us for so long. But whatever. I mean, but. No, I don't think so. I don't think he'd be good for he might be good for the UK. I don't think he'd be good for. It's not a good message to send.
Send
man.
out just in general.
This is not.
This is not the world.
Once is like Trump is an anomaly.
But when Trump got re-elected, it kind of did something weird.
No, I don't think so. I mean, anybody who didn't see that Trump was getting re-elected the second time around. I mean, come on, man. Like, Biden couldn't walk upstairs.
But against Kamala, I thought you'd vote for anyone. My point is this, like, that image, like, when you said once was enough, people have woken up that you can't have these, cartoonish, non-political type figures.
Leaders,
You can.
Yeah, you can. It's proof. Donald Trump is proof. But I think one is enough.
Yeah.
I think one is enough.
Okay.
I don't think we can have people who like you heard what Donald Trump said, right, in one of his speeches. He called out this group of people saying that there is a support group called White Dudes for Harris. Is anyone here? So they were like I thought, nobody. You know what's funny? Is that their wives and their wives' lovers are voting for me. Like, come on, bro, you're the president of America.
Stupid. He's hilarious. He's a very funny guy. He has
hilarious.
Great comedic timing.
He's a G.
Yeah.
He's a G. But we don't need so many Gs.
Yeah, and we don't need another.
The top G cannot come.
Dude,
imagine
UK is too close to India.
Dude, imagine the top G being Prime Minister and coming and meeting Modi. And trying and doing his, and then his Bugatti. Dude.
It's too much. Anyways, I think we should end it on that note. I think we'll have to reconnect when the UK.
Yeah.
There's no election. They have to try to topple the government.
Yeah, but right now they are in a position where they can.
Yeah.
They're literally in a position where they can.
Anyways, thanks, Neel. This has been fun.
Looking forward to this one actually seeing the light of day.
I don't know. That one saw a lot of light. Too much light.
Too much
soon.
light too fast. Yeah, flew too fast.
For those of you who saw that episode before it was taken down, you're welcome.
No, but it was a pleasure. And these are topic areas that I think are important in today's world, and I think it needs to be talked. The other side needs to be talked about, because there are enough of these guys talking the
left side.
Yeah, I wouldn't say the left side. I would say the soft side, dude. Because there are lefties who are also hard.
Conflate that with every left wing opinion. Trying not to insult the left.
You know where I stand.
Okay, guys, that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Please subscribe to the channel, like this video, share it, and that's out. We're out.